Hey Kingdom, welcome to Dragon Age Veilguard, and today I will show you my new build for Stormcaller Mage. So if you want to roleplay like Raiden, Lord of Lightning, you definitely can do it in Dragon Age Veilguard. As always, I will show everything from the skill tree that you need to items and companion builds. And let's start with early game skill tree. So that's the skill tree for around level 20 or even before if you scout and explore a lot and gain some skill points from Wolf status. And as you can see, we're not aiming for any specialization yet, but while it looks like we're going for Spellblade, actually we want and we will be using this big two-handed staff as our main weapon. So, let me quickly explain where we start. And we start with Fate Strike. You will be able to double tap evade button and then quickly do damage with your quick attack. Also, we're gaining mana regeneration that will restart faster. And then our main ability, Chain Lightning. So it will be our main ability for this build. We will use it a lot. And it's Strike projectile ability that uses 2 mana as mana cost and doing some electricity damage. We'll apply Overwhelm that will deal additional stagger to target when we basically start to hit him later. And also it will fire up to 4 targets, so we can hit multiple targets with 1 hit, and it will apply shock condition on them. And shock will inflict damage over time, electric damage, and also will deal stagger at the same time. So this build is insanely overpowered, especially early on, but scales very well in the late game with our gear. So gear is actually the key to success. But here what you want to do first, you want to go to the bottom right of the burst tree over here, but on the way just pick everything. So you want to pick this extra charge attack damage, and you can charge light attacks, you can charge heavy attacks, so basically like square and triangle buttons on PlayStation, and also you want to take maximum mana plus 50. And then you get in Perfect Cast. So Perfect Cast gives you ability to hold your light or heavy attack and then release to increase damage. And that's basically what will be focusing on our build. All these 4 nodes over here. So we want to increase our electric damage, strike projectile damage, we want to increase staggers that we deal, and also damage of charged attacks. So then we get in this node over here that will give us more stagger from abilities. And that's where you can make mistakes if you're trying to build a Raiden yourself. So this is some nodes over here. First of all, we can have more critical damage. And then we got this upgrade to our strike and projectile abilities. Projectile will deal critical damage to enemies suffering from necrosis, critical hit against enemies who is not down, defeating enemies will give you rally party, and strike abilities apply shock to nearby enemies. We already applied shock, we don't need rally party, we don't have any necrosis, and basically it's useless nodes for us. So we completely ignore them and going straight into more mana restoration after defeating enemy, and this will give us basically unlimited mana later on. Then we're getting more electric damage over here, and our next ability, Tempest. So it's strike duration ability, and we basically making thunderstorm. It will create area, shock enemies around you, and also will deal some lightning damage to random enemies in area. Then it won't matter what you pick, staff energy, recharge rate or takedown damage, but anyway we need Nexus Shock. Hitting enemies with at least 3 stacks of shock will cause chain of electric damage strikes up to 2 additional enemies within range. So that completely breaks the build and breaks the game. Basically, whenever you hit enemies who are shocked with 3 stacks, and it's insanely easy to apply these 3 stacks of shock at them, you will deal chain lightning with every hit, so you will just spam your quick attack button and destroy everyone. While at the same time we're picking these upgrading strike abilities to deal more damage to enemies for each stack of shocked, and that's why we need maximum shock stacks up +1, very efficient against bosses or high health enemies, and also we get in this upgrade to projectile abilities that will make them deal bonus damage to targets at least 20 meters away. And here is basically the bulk of the build is ready. It will be around level 10 or so, and you will be completely dominating battlefield from now on. But enemies will become stronger now, and you want to be even more stronger. That's why we're picking these 3 nodes over here next. We're getting Elemental Catalyst. Abilities will gain 15% bonus damage based on the damage type of your staff and orb weapons, and I will talk about weapons in a minute. And also we're getting mana regeneration plus 15%, and we're getting Light Armor Mastery. So Light Armor will give you most ability damage power to your build basically. It's like the biggest damage amplifier in the game, but in armor category of course. And also it will give you staff recharge rate and staff energy attack range plus 2. So that's a great note over here, just to unleash crazy amounts of damage with your staff charge attack. So it will be your triangle button. And then we're basically finishing a little bit over here. We want to take 15% less damage from shocked enemies, so we are powerful enough, we need a little bit of protection right now. Getting more damage versus armor. And our final ability, Storm Surge. It's area strike ability, and it will inflict electricity damage in front of you, will apply overwhelm, and also it got only cooldown without mana cost. So as you can see, it's really easy to stagger enemies with this build, and we got a lot of electricity damage. And finishing touches over here will be to take this stagger from charge attacks plus 20% and upgrade strike abilities to deal 50% more stagger. And this completely breaks our chain lightning, which is strike ability too, while at the same time we're picking this light attack damage versus health plus 10%, will give you more damage with your stuff, like basic light attack. And landing critical hit with strike abilities grants Quickened. Quickened will shorten cooldowns of your abilities, and you will gain a lot of mana with this build at the same time. You can basically spam abilities a lot. If you got some spare points, you can have final attack damage plus 10%. It's the last attack in attack chain and the basic style of the game. I will show you like basic strategy of the build. You want to hit like 4 attacks, make final attack. It will have a little bit more damage, and then you want to basically spam your abilities. That will be completely easy because you will have a lot of mana. And since we will spam our basic combo a lot, final attacks will be critical against low health enemies, which is a really great note. So that's like the start of the build, as it will give you a lot of like power and stuff, and I will show you gameplay in a second. But first of all, we need to talk about our gear. As you can see, I still got uncommon and rare gear right now for this build, since I played my Fire Mage first, but right now I'm really enjoying this insane electric mage, and it can be even more powerful than you will see. So that's what we have here. First of all, we're using Shock Branch, and if you don't know, the gear, most of the gear in this game will have faction behind it, and this means the faction behind it will give you a ability to farm more of this stuff. So you need to find one more Shock Branch to upgrade it to rarity, and one more Shock Branch to upgrade it to legendary tier. And basically to do it, you need to go to their respected faction area. So it will be Dogtown with Shadow Dragon's faction, and just look for the traders. You can buy like 1 copy of it from the trader most of the time, and do the quests in this area. So after you complete some quests, unlock some chests, you will most likely find some copies of this stuff and upgrade it really early in the game. And here we are, as I told you, the trader. To upgrade rarity of our helmet will be located just over here. And that's basically what you want to do. You want to find these traders and buy items, and most of the time you will find what you need. So, Shock Branch. First of all, it will give more final attack damage. This means you want to always do full combination to deal this final attack damage. And we got nice bonuses for it too, while it's having like this almost guaranteed critical strike. Also, it will give you more electric damage on hit, and this is nice since we will use this combo a lot. And since final attack will be critical hit, it will most likely defeat enemies, and you will gain shocking weapons, and this means you will basically start doing extra electric damage on weapon attacks, which is really great for us. Also, it will have nice buff later in the game, defeating enemies with the final attack, increasing damage of shocking weapons by 20%, which is great. for the full fight, by the way, not for some time. And that's our main stuff, main weapon. Then our helmet. Same faction, Karastes double head, and it will not only give you some nice ability damage, but also it will give you mana regeneration, which you need to basically hit enemies a lot with your abilities. It will give you more stagger on ability use later on, so it's really easy to stagger enemies. And when it will be upgraded to epic tier, you will gain 30 ability damage if all share the same ability type. And that's why we're using 3 abilities of the same time. We're using 3 lightning abilities: Chain Lightning, Tempest, and Storm Surge, of course. So that's a great, insane helmet that you want to use. And armor will be from Wheel Jumpers. Jumpers Deft Leathers. It have insane ability damage, it gives you more maximum mana, 15% mana regeneration, and then you will have, in the late game, when you scale this armor even more, you will have defense from maximum mana. And also, when you upgrade it to legendary tier after using ability with mana cost, you will gain bonus damage equal to 20% of the cost. Basically, cost of our abilities is 100 mana, and if you strike with 2 abilities at the same time in the later stages of the game, you can easily do it. You will gain insane buff of damage. To finish the build, you need to write Belt, so we're going with Jumper's Biting, that will give us more electric damage, and apply shock to nearby enemies on potion use. Also, we're going with Token of True Sight. It's Amulets that will increase projectile ability damage. It will give more barrier damage from projectile abilities, and you will replenish mana when you hit enemies with projectile abilities that is far away. And that's the greatest part. When you upgrade this amulet, you will have basically unlimited mana, and you can spam your insanely overpowered Chain Lightning as much as you wish. Then we're getting Focus of the Wheel, of course, that will increase our electric damage, give us some electric resistance, and electric ability damage versus barrier, of course. Also, when you upgrade it to maximum tier, you will have 50% of other bonuses applied to electric damage, which is really great. And second ring will be Brass Root. More shocked damage, 20% damage versus shocked enemies, and we easily apply shocked condition on enemies. So that's a great ring for us. And let's talk about augments. So augments, if you don't know, basically you need to progress through the game a little bit, and I actually recommend focusing on storyline first to unlock all futures first, and then before the last mission just go and explore a lot. But it will depend on your difficulty, of course. If you're playing on highest difficulty, you want to clear as much side quests as possible before reaching the final mission, and you will already have all these weapons upgraded if you're focusing on Wheel Jumpers and Shadow Dragons, of course. So augments will be unlocked a lot faster, and you need to progress on this shop that will be in Lighthouse to enchant weapons. And I got 15% damage at high health on my branch, but before you can have any other augments that will give you some damage to light attacks or wherever. For helmet, I got 20% electricity resistance, more on that later. For armor, I got just flat 10% defense, and that's really great buff, considering we'll have a lot of bonuses to our defense later on when we upgrade this armor. You can't augment your belt, but on our amulet we got plus 10 health damage, so it will increase our damage to health to basically the biggest bar on enemy head. And for rings, I got projectile ability damage and strike ability damage increase, so we're basically focusing on our Chain Lightning as main ability. For runes, I'm going with 10 electricity damage, Electrify rune, plus 10% health, Divert rune, and also plus 10% stagger, Daze rune. Companions for this build will be Bellara and Dovrin. So for Bellara, we want to use Time Slow ability and Replenish. We're not focusing on trying to detonate enemies, but for Bellara, definitely get Concentration Bow, and when you upgrade it, you will be able to have this nice ability. So when Bellara will attack your target will become vulnerable to electric damage, and that's insanely powerful stuff, since it will reduce resistances to your electric damage. Very useful against enemies who are resistant to electric damage. For armor, you can pick any armor, it completely doesn't matter. But you want to upgrade abilities like that, so you want to have Time Slow, upgrade it straight forward over here, and it basically will give you ability to use abilities without mana cost inside Time Slow, your first ability. And that's like insanely overpowered stuff. And also replenish, I like to use also straight line upgrade first. And it will give you ability basically to trigger this effect without like mana cost or whatever when you're at low health. So you will be auto-healed instantly. And for Davrin, we just want to use his Battle Cry ability. And we upgrading it like that, so we get in replenish 50 health each second that taunt is active. And yeah, Battle Cry is basically the cry that will taunt enemies. This means they will come together, they will try to attack Davrin, while you can stay away and deal like insane damage with our Lightning Strike. Then we get an Overprotective. Again, when you're at low health, Battle Cry will automatically trigger when it's not on cooldown. In some battles you won't use it, so it's nice to have ability to like auto-trigger it. I like to use Echo to increase effective radius, then Battle Cry to increase duration, and last upgrades doesn't matter at all. And it's time to see the combat, how it looks with this build and our strategy and tactics in a fight. This will be the final build for like around level 30, 40, level 50, depending on how much ability points you actually have. And I will show you the final leveling after this part. So, first of all, basically you need to learn basic combo. It will be light attack, and then hold light attack for this double attack. This will be the main stuff that we will use to generate mana and destroy our enemies. We're using our Crow skill to just get away from enemies, since it will give you like subtle like evasion, and also you can double tap evade button to this quick evasion later, and also deal damage right after it with your light attack. So that's basically our basic combination. But if you want to engage enemies in close combat for some reason, you can go forward to them and then use your charged staff attack. How it looks like? It looks devastating and pretty powerful. And don't forget, you can charge it for even more damage. And then basically, if you're surrounded by enemies, use your sphere that will make thunderstorm around you in this area and strike random enemies around you. But most of the time we want to stay in distance and then just spam our light attack, followed by chain lightning after each combination. So that's basically how it looks like. We're using our combination and lightning attack is recharged. Right now I have no mana, but you will see how it's easy, very easy to get in a combat. So, first of all, most stable way to inflict this vulnerability to lightning from our companion Bellara is to actually ask her to focus down this target in this pause menu. It will be like most stable way. Also in pause menu you will see this like vulnerability and resistance statuses. This guy is not vulnerable or resistant to our damage type, that's great. But again, that's how you want to start a fight. Most of the time it will be with basic chain lightning on any of the targets, but also you want to pick target in the middle of everyone and use Battle Cry from Davrin, so he will gather everyone up. For Bellara, just don't use everything right now, you don't care about this stuff. So that's how it will look like. Basically everyone is overwhelmed and you're starting to use your basic quick attack. But if we are surrounded, we definitely want to use this Storm first, and then just quick attack to regain some mana. The final attack will definitely blast down enemies, and again it's really easy to stagger them and make this like take down, which is really vicious. Takedowns is really extremely easy with this type of build. You will easily stagger down enemies and deal insane amount of damage via takedowns. But if you need some help, also you can use your ultimate to pull targets together in this storm, then use your Crow without mana cost, and then storm and chain lightning at the same time. This completely destroys enemies and looks amazing. This guy is vulnerable to my attacks right now, and as you can see we're doing around 500 damage with non-upgraded equipment, and it scales a lot more later. And final attack is always critical hit, which is great. So yeah, if you're curious, it's highest difficulty, pretty high level, and enemies is really... Whoa, I got Shock Branch. That's basically how it works, yeah. As I told you, we just upgraded our stuff to give us Shocking Weapon when we defeat enemies with final attack. And that's what I told you about. Basically, you need to do some side quests in these respected zones. Our triangle attack is also insane. It's easily destroying enemies, and basically that's the combination we're doing our basic attacks, restoring some mana and dealing loads of critical hits at the same time. And another great way to start a fight is to actually use your Chain Lightning first to apply these shocked conditions and other stuff, and then slow down time with Belara. So slowing down time with Belara will give us ability to use ability without mana cost, so we can use one more Chain Lightning with additional damage via shocked stats. And then we get in our mana, doing one more Chain Lightning, and basically continue to pull down our Stagger Baron enemy and completely like destroy him, even without charged Triangle heavy attack. That's how it works, and that's completely busted. That's like crazy build. It looks amazing, feels amazing, plays amazing. Nice advice is to charge your stuff by holding triangle button before the fight, because you will regain your mana out of the battle. So just go in the battle prepared. Oh my goodness, let's overwhelm this bro. Get some mana and let's charge. Oh my goodness, extremely nice and powerful heavy charged attack. Oh, you're all down here, guys. Sad for you. Let's slow down time and spam some spells, since we don't have mana right now. Oh my goodness. So much crits. Poor dudes. The Eye of the Storm. Oh my goodness. This build just hit hard. So much additional, like, extra damage on each hit. Jeez. We're hitting like 3 orbs with our final attack. It's like triple attack. Bro, you're done. Overwhelmed and extra attack on hit on shock target. Jeez. So, if you're in danger of like really big fight, you can just time slow and battle cry at the same time while using Tempest. And that's how it will look like. So we instantly slowing them down, using Tempest, getting away with our Crow attack, and finishing down with ultimate. So they will be gathered together while we unleashing our charged heavy, and then continuing with our like basic fast attacks with critical hits. And that's pretty like crazy stuff. Oh my goodness, bro, when you will be staggered finally? Please. So he's finally staggered, and that's the final hit on the boss, escaping with our lightning attack. And powerful, bro, you're done. So how this build plays out, let me show you like the full tree that we need. And basically instantly we want to go over here. Prism of Resistance. You gain 10% resistance to the damage type of each mapped ability first, and that's great stuff. Then we get in Fire and Cold Resistance, and finally getting Bolt Volley over here. And we finally get in our specialization. It will be Evoker, and we will get Vortex of Shadows Ultimate, which is nice, called Ultimate. And I really like to switch my old Fire Ultimate for this new one, of course. It's really great and nice setup ability to counter your enemies. But now, where we need to go in our Evoker category? And we want to go to the top part. Basically, we get an Entropic Sphere, then cold damage plus 10%. We don't care too much about it. But here's the fun part. Bolt Volley is basically ability that gives you this feature. When you tap your light attack when it's already fired, that will fire additional bolts. So it's basically almost double damage from your stuff. And then you're getting 2 fires. You're upgrading projectile abilities. After using projectile ability, your stuff attacks fire additional bolt at your targets for the next 6 seconds. So you're using your projectile ability, you shock your enemies, and now your stuff will fire additional bolt, and also one more additional bolt if you just spam your quick attack button. Then you pick an Onslaught. Now your combination can be used with light charged light attack, and it will unleash the barrage of bolts on your enemies, which is insane stuff for more damage. And it will be final attack, so it will be critical strike most of the time. Next, you increase in Staff Mastery, so Staff Light attack damage plus 25%. And also light staff attacks reduce enemy resistance to your staff's damage type by 5% for 10 seconds. Basically, you're hitting loads of staff attacks. You lower enemy resistance to your lightning damage, and every time you're using your final staff attack, basically full combination, it will reduce cooldown of your abilities. And that's basically it. That's how build will look like. That's final version of the build. We will make it into the late game category with next 17 points spent, but basically here we are ready. We will be completely broken, and that's what you saw in the gameplay section. But to finish off the build, first of all, we want to have Dark Squall. It's projectile control ability. We won't use it, but whenever you pick any ability in this tree, you will get ability damage plus 15%, which is great, so our ability damage will be increased instantly. Then we're getting this note over here, light attack damage versus health plus 10%. That's already pretty big buff for us in the late game. And then we're getting supercharged. Projectile abilities will deal more damage versus better. Very nice against mages, and mages in the late game are very annoying, so it's very nice to have this right now. Also, we're getting affliction damage plus 10%, and also upgrading our projectile abilities to launch additional projectile, and damage will be based on our stuff, so it will be lightning, of course. And here where we can go in the late game. So basically we can focus on unlocking more skills for even more ability damage, and that's why Downfall in the middle is a great part to start. Jump attacks guaranteed to be critical hits, but it doesn't matter. We get in Wall of Fire for ability damage, and also Velocity, stagger from weapon attacks plus 20%. Then we get in Return Fire with advantage duration plus 20%, and also successful light attacks generate additional 25% mana. We're using a lot of light attacks in our combinations, so it's very nice, and this will be doubled against enemies suffering from affliction, and affliction is basically shocked condition, so it will be 50% more mana from light attacks, very nice in the late game. More critical damage, and meteor spell for ability damage can be picked too. To then go over here into affliction damage plus 10%, and then going on top, it will be 20% more stagger against enemies with affliction. That's the real final form of the build, but if you got some spare points, you can go on top. And basically I'm getting maximum shield stacks, I don't care about those. I'm taking this performing takedown, grants 50 mana and 33 staff energy. There's almost similar rune over here, similar note. Performing takedown grants 250 health and 20 ultimate, which is really nice too. And you can finish actually with some points in meditation for more mana regeneration. And basically in the late game, just focus on some stuff that will just unlock skills for more ability damage, and something that gives you like takedown damage will be nice, more health, you know, some protective stuff. There's a lot of like good notes over here. I hope you really enjoyed the build and you will have blast playing it in Dragon Age Veilguard. Watch other cool videos on the screen right now and see you there.